A trucker is traveling through a highway while eating a sandwich when suddenly, a car stops in front of him. He steps down from the vehicle to check what's happening. 3 men come out and point guns at him. The trucker realizes this is an ambush and tries to escape, but he gets attacked. The men check out the truck's contents to steal any valuables. The truck would be almost empty, if not for the coffin-looking wooden box situated at the far end. They open it and unveil a mannequin. In the next seconds, the truck's door suddenly closes. The other man on the lookout hears his accomplice's screams while seeing the truck shake terribly. He opens the door and sees his lifeless friends but doesn't see any attackers. Moments later, the trucker wakes up and sees one of the robbers convulsing right in front of him. Standing behind him is a mannequin. The trucker gets scared and tries to run but gets hit by a car passing by. The car's driver is our main character, Frankie, who is in shock at what just happened. She looks at her rearview mirror and sees a glimpse of the mannequin. Police arrive moments later and they interview her. She isn't accused of anything, as she just accidentally hit the trucker. They ask her one last time if she has seen anybody else on the scene after the accident. Frankie tells them she did not see anyone. Upon getting home, Frankie's boyfriend asks her how her day has been and keeps talking about his plans for their life for the next 5 years. Frankie is still in shock after the accident and is not responding to him. Then, unable to contain it, she starts crying. The next day, Frankie is at home alone, and she cannot relax, thinking about what happened. She hears creaking inside the house and thinks there is an intruder. Her friend Lucy arrives and they discover that it's just her vacuum cleaner stuck in the closet. That night, she goes clubbing with her friends. She tells them about what happened. Her close friend Jonah listens to her intently and consoles her. All of a sudden, he starts seeing a figure of a mannequin in the club. Moments later, her group decides to go to Frankie's house because their friend Lewis is getting kicked out of the place for being unruly. However, her friend Molly asks her to stay for a bit more. Molly gives her a party pill, which she hesitantly takes. After dancing for a while, she feels unwell and goes to the bathroom. All of a sudden, the lights in the club turn dark. When she goes out of the bathroom, she sees that Molly is bloodied and everyone else is lying lifeless on the floor. Then, she sees the mannequin. Molly runs away and Frankie follows her. When she opens the door, she is greeted with Molly's bloodied face, vomiting blood. The mannequin stands on the other side of the street looking at her. Frankie goes home and her friends see her filled with blood. Then, the police come to interview her. Jonah decides to follow her in the precinct. On the way, he encounters the mannequin as well. Wherever he goes, the mannequin follows. Whenever he looks away, the mannequin moves closer. Jonah suddenly appears at Frankie's house, and he tells her about his encounter with the mannequin. Then, he shows her a video he found online. The video shows a woman sharing her encounter with the mannequin, and she looks so terrified. She says that it follows her everywhere and no one believes her. The video gets cut off as the mannequin appears before her again. Frankie gathers her friends and expresses that what the woman experienced is exactly what she and Jonah are experiencing. Then, when she looks out the window, there stands the mannequin. Her friends also see this and think they are being pranked. The moment they all look away, the mannequin moves closer. Then, it's suddenly in the room with them. They get distracted when Steve comes home, and when they look back at the mannequin, it's gone. When Jonah gets home that night, he leaves a comment on a post online about other people who were stalked by the mannequin. He asks for help. Lewis is swimming in the pool, and unbeknownst to him, the mannequin is already stalking him. He suddenly sees a pair of legs underwater and looks around. He doesn't find anyone, but the next second, he gets pulled underwater, never to emerge alive again. That night, Frankie awakens from sleep, and she sees Steve talking to himself in the living room. He shares that he has been having nightmares that he is hurting her. He doesn't seem to be well. The next day, Jonah receives a response to the comment he posted online. He calls the number, and the man on the other end tells him to do exactly as he says. It turns out to be the very man who shipped the mannequin. His name is Victor. Jonah calls everyone to meet up. Drake doesn't want to believe the whole thing and refuses to come. He is coming back home from a walk and about to enter his apartment building when all of a sudden, his girlfriend, Madison, falls down, meeting her demise. As he looks up, he sees that the mannequin is standing on the stairs where Madison was watching him earlier. He screams out in anger. At a bar, Steve is having a drink and seems to be talking to someone about the recent happenings with his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Lucy is looking for her friend, Isabel, but she is nowhere to be found. It looks like Isabel wandered off and is lost. Then, she feels someone following her and is now very scared. Lucy tries calling her and she hears her phone ringing nearby. When she finds her, she's standing still in an alley, with her back facing Lucy. When she goes around to see her face, she finds that her eyes have been gouged out with blood all over her face. Then, the mannequin appears before her. Back at the bar, Steve is still talking to someone, but the camera reveals that there is actually no one in front of him. He has been talking to himself the whole time. In Frankie's house, they are starting to gather when Drake barges in and blames Frankie for bringing the mannequin into their lives. The group then knows that Madison is gone now. Drake asks them to tell him everything they know and why it's after them. Frankie realizes that the reason the mannequin is not attacking her yet is because the mannequin needs people to see it, to get more victims. And she has unknowingly done exactly as it wanted, by letting her friends see it. Now, they are in this situation, and they do not know how to get out. Steve arrives and Frankie tells him that the mannequin now has several victims. They try to convince him that it's real, but Steve does not believe any of it. He just laughs at them and gets a bottle of alcohol, then drinks it. Lucy looks out the window and sees that the mannequin is standing outside. They all come out except for Lucy. Steve checks the mannequin and even knocks on it, but it doesn't move at all. Then, he acts like he is suddenly having a hard time breathing, but it turns out that he is just messing around with them. They notice that the mannequin is still standing there, even though they already looked away. It is because Lucy is still looking at it from inside the house. They all gather around the mannequin, making sure not to take their eyes away from it. They conclude that they need to watch it in shifts to make sure it doesn't move. Drake is the first one to watch the mannequin while Frankie and Jonah are talking. Lucy is taking a nap inside to prepare for her shift. Moments later, Frankie decides to bring Steve some coffee. However, she doesn't find him in his room. She checks the thesis he has been working on, and to her surprise, it doesn't have any other content aside from the word mannequin. She senses that something is wrong with Steve. Drake is almost dozing off already while watching the mannequin. All of a sudden, Steve appears and sets it ablaze while laughing. He is obviously very drunk. Jonah tells him that he doesn't know what he has done by setting the mannequin on fire. Steve claps back by boasting his PhD and emphasizing that he knows things that Jonah will not even be able to comprehend. Frankie butts in, saying she saw his thesis, and expresses that he needs help mentally. The sky suddenly starts rumbling while the mannequin is slowly burning. Jonah tells them not to look away, whatever happens. However, lighting strikes the mannequin and they are unable to keep their eyes on it. The next second, it's gone. Steve mocks Frankie again by saying that it was just a mannequin, then steps inside the house. Then, they hear Steve screaming, and the next moment, they see his headless body walking outside. The mannequin stands outside the house watching, holding Steve's severed head in its hand. They try to look for the mannequin, but then, the lights suddenly go out. They use their phone's flashlights, and the mannequin keeps appearing, and then disappears. Jonah and Drake decide to check the fuse box in the basement, while carefully and anxiously looking out for the mannequin's presence. They manage to fix the fuse and the light comes back. As Drake is about to go outside the room, the mannequin appears and attacks him. Now there are only 3 of them left. They hear the doorbell ring, and it turns out to be Victor. He is revealed to be a blind man. He tells them that the mannequin has tormented him for 30 years, taking the lives of everyone he loved. He is lucky enough as he could not see the mannequin. He compliments Frankie's coffee and asks for some more, so she goes to the kitchen. He asks Jonah and Lucy if they are the only ones who have seen the mannequin. Lucy confirms that the 3 of them are the only ones alive left. Jonah decides to follow Frankie in the kitchen. Lucy asks Victor about her daughter who was a victim of the mannequin. She expresses that she is sorry for what happened to her. Victor responds by saying sorry too. In the kitchen, Frankie sees the mannequin outside the house and doesn't dare let her eyes off of it. She tells Jonah to call Victor. In a surprising turn of events, Jonah sees Victor attacking Lucy with a knife. Victor proceeds to stab him as well. Then Victor approaches Frankie, who is still looking at the mannequin. Frankie asks him what he is doing, and he states that he is ending this once and for all. He tries to stab Frankie, but she dodges right in time, asking Victor why he is doing this. He explains that he wishes he could help her. However, as soon as she lays her eyes on the mannequin, she is cursed, and there is no saving her. Since she is the last one alive to see the mannequin, he concludes that once she is gone, the mannequin's power would be lost too, ensuring that it doesn't have any more victims in the future. Frankie is caught in turmoil as she tries to save herself from both Victor and the mannequin. She hides in the bathroom and stays as quiet as possible so Victor can't sense her. However, her blood drops, and Victor hears this. He catches her and strangles her, but luckily, Jonah regains consciousness and attacks Victor. Their dilemma is not yet over as the mannequin appears behind Frankie. They decide to run away to escape the mannequin and to bring Jonah to the hospital. However, Jonah collapses due to his injury. Frankie decides to face the mannequin. She steps back into the house and looks for it. She finds it still standing at the last spot where they left it. When she looks behind her, she sees that the mannequin is looking at its own reflection in the mirror. So this is how to stop it. The mannequin also cannot move when it is looking at its own reflection, not only when a human is looking at it. If only Frankie had known this, she would have been able to save her friends. Fast forward, Frankie is now moving on from the traumatic experience. She has passed her acceptance test for law school, but decided to defer her acceptance until the following year. She wants to take some time for herself and spend time with Jonah. Then, Jonah asks her what happened to the mannequin. The next scene shows that the mannequin is placed in a wooden box with a mirror attached in front of it. 2 truckers are trying to move the box, but unfortunately, it falls, breaking the mirror. The 2 men do not have any awareness that they have just uncovered a nightmare that will haunt them from this day on.